Magic doorway. Good morning. You know, I want to just applaud Barnabas as well. I go along with what you say. I've had the experience to be a part of this Barnabas group, but all over the nation. And I love the heart of the Barnabas members. Whenever you can gather as a Christian leader, you can gather people together who are kingdom-minded. And they're asking the questions, how can we influence the kingdom in different ways? It's powerful, and I wish I had more time to tell. I could take 30 minutes to tell you about the benefit that Barnabas has been to me as an individual and us as an organization. But, you know, I want to get started here by saying that we have a problem. And I've never started a presentation this way, but I've just been overwhelmed with the fact that we have a problem, and that is that we have a generation, the largest generation in our nation, the millennials, that are disconnected from the church and disconnected from Christ. And my question to you, even before I start, is how are we doing as the big church at reaching the big generation? I wish I had time to ask you how you feel like it's going, because I could quote statistics to you that would prove that we're losing ground. And as an evangelist, it kills me. As a youth and young adult specialist, it drives me crazy to know that we have a generation that desperately needs Jesus, and they really don't care. I'll tell you this, they haven't rejected Christ. They're just unaware that he should be a part of their life. And so I'm excited to share with you what God's doing, because at the end, I'm going to share with you some of the amazing things that God's doing. Because as the Big C church, we are losing ground, but God's doing some amazing things. Let me share with you some of the statistics. By the way, on my table back there that just says Jesus Cares, I have some of these little flyers here. We call them the Millennial Scorecard. These are some of the statistics about this generation spiritually that drive me, that captured my attention. If you'd like to look more in depth, would you just stop back and grab one of those? But here are some of the statistics. They are America's largest generation. There were over 78 million millennials born between 1980 and 2000. The boomers used to be the biggest. There were 2 million more births, which makes us a very strategic generation. Whenever you have a large populace, it creates an opportunity or it creates a problem. America's largest generation, 65% rarely or never attend church. And again, we could go into that because we know that they can discover Christ in churches that are preaching Christ, but if they're walking past the church, 70% of the American millennials believe the American church is irrelevant. I don't believe that, but that's what they believe, and that's what we have to understand as we try and reach them. 65% rarely or never attend church, and 65% on a government for claim to be a Christian, which is great. 65%. Problem is, less than 1 in 5 can tell you how to become one. They look at a government form and they say, well, I'm not a Muslim and I'm not an atheist. I got to be something. I guess I most closely associate with Christianity. But the reality is most of them don't know what that means. Here's the strategy. Well, let's go back here. Here's part of the name of the organization is Groundwire. The messaging strategy right now is JesusCares.com, because Scripture says it's His kindness that leads us to repentance. The problem is millennials do not believe that Jesus is kind and loving. They think He's angry and judgmental. And the amazing thing that we're seeing is they think the American church is irrelevant, but they think that Jesus is very attractive. They think that what He offers to them is appealing: forgiveness, hope, peace in the midst of storm. But the question is, how do we approach Him? And that's where God's really given us some unique things. Here's our strategy. The first piece of it is interruption. It's not invitation. We don't say, hey, would you like to come and hear about a man who can change your life? Because most of them say, I've got better things to do. So we interrupt them through media. Second thing we do is we offer them a conversation. We're the only organization in the world that 24 hours a day has an evangelism hotline that is all text and instant message driven. Excuse me. Most people would say, well, why don't you have them on the phone? Because millennials don't pick up the phone, do they? They pick up the phone. 24 hours a day, we have volunteers just like you. Excuse me. I've got a little something caught in my throat. That's very attractive. 24 hours a day, we have volunteers just like you all over the world that are sitting there. When somebody sees a commercial, they log in, they say, hey, does Jesus really care about me? And they're met by somebody who cares about them. From there, our desire is to bring them to a place of commitment. Some people have dubbed us as a suicide hotline because we deal with suicidal kids every day. We deal with at-risk kids who are cutting themselves. We deal with all of those things. But the reality is our goal is to introduce them to Christ. It's their crisis that gives us opportunity to talk to them about Christ. From there, we have a tool where we educate them. We teach them what it means to grow in their faith. And then the last part of that is we introduce them to a community. We hand them off to a local church. Here's how it looks. A young lady named Naomi, 17 years old. She saw a commercial one day that says, "When life hurts, Jesus cares." She said, "That sounds interesting." It says, "Chat with someone who understands." And so she logged in. Naomi logs in, and she's instantly connected to a woman in California. Her name is Bev. Bev heard about us on a radio interview, and she says, "Hey, I want to be a part of what's going on, and I have time." So she begins to serve. They begin to chat. Naomi didn't say much about her life other than, "It hurts. I'm struggling." Bev says, "Oh, honey," because she's a grandma. She says, "Oh, honey, I understand. I understand. You want to tell me about your life?" "No, I really don't want to tell you what's going on." Bev said, "When I was growing up, life was hard too. I was depressed. I was struggling. I didn't know where to make sense. Can I tell you how I found hope?" And she said, "Sure." She begins to share about this relationship with Christ that Bev experienced when she was in her early 20s. She said, "Not only did I get the promise of heaven, I got forgiveness of sins, walking through all the benefits." She said, "But not only that, Jesus has never left me." And Naomi says, "Wait a second, go back. Are you telling me he'll never leave? Because Dad left." Abandonment was a huge selling point for her. Bev says, "He'll never leave you." She said, "Then I want to pray to receive Christ." Online in California and in Nashville, they're logging in and they're connecting. Naomi has this experience, and Bev says, "What an honor it was to chat with you today." And Naomi says, "You don't know what this has meant to me. I'm sitting next to 168 pills." She said, "I've been gathering them, the notes written." She said, "I was going to take my life today if I didn't find hope." And Bev says, "Oh, honey," she said, "you have a great future. While I'm on the line, would you go flush those pills?" Talks her into giving up the pills, talks her into getting rid of the blade that she's cutting herself with. I'm reading this chat almost in tears as I'm flying to California on a Monday morning. That this chat just happened on Saturday night. Got to a place with her where I realized Bev lives 5 minutes from where I'm going to be. So I called Bev and says, "Hey, Bev, could I come meet you?" She said, "Yeah." I walked in. She gave me a hug. She said, "You don't know what Groundwire's meant to me." She said, "I'm a shut-in. I'm 61. My mom lives with me, and she has Alzheimer's, dementia. My husband has Parkinson's. I get to the house 3 hours a week. Without Groundwire, I wouldn't have an outlet for my faith. You gave me one. Thank you." We sat down, had cookies and milk because she's a grandma. She cooked. Had a great time. I said, before we leave, I said the two things. Number one is I want to take a picture with you. I said, I want to remember what you look like. Secondly, show me where you do your chat. She walked me into her office, and there in her office, there was a long wicker basket, long and narrow. Had 5x7 cards of every chat she'd had in the last 18 months. She handed me Naomi's, and I start reading it. Follow-up information, prayer request, email, all these things. And we connected her to a church. And I realized this one was different. It was rubber banded to a stack about that big. I said, "Bev, none of the others have rubber bands. Why does this one have a rubber band?" She looks at me. She goes, "Those are the ones the Lord's allowed me to introduce to him so far." I said, "How many, Bev?" And she just humbly said 88 so far. It's over 150 now for Bev. That's what we do. We've actually connected Naomi to a church. She got baptized 4 months after. She actually went on her first missions trip now. So that's what it looks like, but it's working in mass. Let me show you two quick commercials. This is what they would see.
"My life is a living hell. I don't think that I can do it anymore."
Well, will you try it again?
"My life is a living hell. I don't think that I can do it anymore. I don't, y'all. Everything that seems to go wrong always goes wrong in my life. And I don't get it. Because I try. When life hurts, Jesus cares. Log on to JesusCares.com to chat with someone who understands.
For time's sake, I'm not going to show you the next commercial. But let me just kind of walk you through real quickly what's going on and what we're talking about doing here in Chicago, because that's really why I'm here. This is working on a national scale, but there's a lot of things that Ken, it's not working for me.
I don't, yeah.
Sorry.
Everything that seems to go wrong always goes wrong in my life.
Okay.
Where was God when...
Sorry about that. Let me just tell you some of the pivots that we've made since I've been here last. God is doing some amazing things. And I'm not going to tell you exactly why, but we have found how to be more predictive in our media delivery. In LA last year, we did a traditional media campaign. We were on 2,400 TV commercials a week on 40 stations. We were on 5 of the top 10 radio stations. We had billboards on Hollywood Boulevard, Sunset Strip, and we had a great response. We saw somebody come to Christ for every $305.14 that we spent, which is great. If you know domestic evangelism, that is a fantastic number. I had a denomination tell me it cost them over $30,000 to see one person come to Christ because they have so many buildings and they have so much staff. Because we're so lean and we're focused on reaching people for Christ, it's very, very inexpensive. But we are going back into LA right now with what we've learned. We found out how to find them when they're staring at their phone, not when they're staring at a billboard. And because of that, the cost now is $31.20 to see somebody come to Christ. That's a great return. It's a great thing. I'm not going to tell you why. If you come talk to me later, I'll share with you why we're able to do it so much more effectively. What we're looking at in Chicagoland is a 3-month outreach here where we would see, based on the testing here, we'd see over 5,800 people come to faith. I don't know about you, but if you love the Lord and you get excited about evangelism, I got to be honest, sometimes the church, we don't get excited about evangelism. I do. Bible says that he wants all men to come to the knowledge of the truth and be saved. And I get excited about that concept. Can I tell you what's going on nationally with us? Last year, we averaged 16 people coming to Christ a day. That's great. But the first quarter, we averaged 30. In April, we averaged 48 a day. In May, we averaged 82 a day. In the last 4 months, we've averaged 112 people a day coming to Christ. I don't know if that excites me. And I can tell you it is God's favor. It's the result of prayer, but there's also some things that we've learned and we put into practice that are making this more effective. But this is what we're looking at in Chicagoland, and here's why we need you. We know that the Barnabas Group is set up to mobilize and to say, how can we be a part of something that's very special. If you have a heart for evangelism and want to consider this, here's the 3 ways that you can plug in. We build a leadership team when we go into an area that can help us navigate the church community, build the prayer support, and identify the funding to do that. If you're willing to run with us for 5 or 6 months to pull off this 3-month outreach, would you talk to me? It's a short-term commitment, but I'm telling you, together we can do something very exciting and very significant here. We need your help in identifying and helping connecting with the Chicagoland leaders, and we also need more BEVs. We need some people to say, I'll give you 2 hours a week. The other night I was online as a coach. There were 8 of us online and we had 21 conversations going. 21 at the same time. You can't do that on the phone. I had 6 of these conversations going on. Here's my question to you. Wouldn't you love to answer the question, does Jesus really care about me? If you would love to answer that question, we'll give you every tool. We'll bring them to your computer when you have time, and you can be a part of something that's pretty amazing. Our goal this year, we'll see about 25 to 30,000 people come to Christ. Our goal is to see over 100,000 people next year come to faith. You can be a part of that if the Lord leads you to do that. Big question, what's the best way to identify and connect with the leadership circles in the Chicagoland area? And then I want to leave you with one of my quotes that I love. It's one of my favorites. Life is too short to waste, and eternity is too long to ignore. That is why I'm so obsessed with reaching people for eternity, because that's what really lasts. And if you share that heart, and if you love millennials, or you love evangelism, or you don't even love it, but you know you should as a Christian. Let's talk. Let's dig down deeper into this. A couple things. Please don't forget the Millennial Scorecard. There's a story back there of a young lady. And then if you're interested, there's this white sheet back there. This talks about the Chicagoland outreach and what it's going to take to do it.